Jasmine Carter was used to storms, but this one had nothing to do with rain. She came home late that night, her cardigan still carrying the scent of stale coffee and cruelty. The train ride had been long. A couple stared at her with pity when she wiped a small tear from her cheek, pretending it was dust. But Jasmine wasn't weak, she was tired. Tired of being the soft-spoken girl who was overlooked, underestimated, and mocked for not dressing the part. Her apartment smelled like home, not some fake designer candle kind of home, but real home. Spices from the jollof rice her husband had cooked earlier, faint notes of shea butter and clean laundry. As soon as she stepped in, she kicked off her shoes and leaned against the door, eyes closed, breathing. "Baby, that you?" A deep voice called from the kitchen. She smiled weakly. "Yeah." Kwame came out holding a wooden spoon, wearing an apron that said King of Jollof, with flour on one cheek. He was a tall man, built like a tree trunk, with the kind of smile that made even bad days feel better. His Ghanaian accent still lingered gently in his English, like music that never forgot its homeland. He took one look at her and knew. "Again?" he asked softly, already pulling her into his arms. She nodded against his chest. "Tiana. Coffee. My client briefs are gone." They all laughed. Even HR didn't say anything. Kwame's jaw tightened. "They don't know who you are, but they will." "No," she said, quickly pulling away. "Don't make a scene. Don't show up there and do something dramatic." "I won't," he said calmly. "I'll be surgical." That night they sat on the floor of their living room, eating rice from one big bowl, sharing silence like only real partners could. She told him every detail, the mocking, the spilled drink, the silence from the people who should have helped. Kwame didn't interrupt. He just listened, his eyes hardening with every word. People saw Jasmine and thought she was alone. They saw her simple clothes, her quiet ways, her thrift store shoes, and thought they could step on her like a doormat. But what they didn't know was that she wasn't just a quiet analyst. She was married to a man who ran a billion-dollar logistics empire across 3 continents. A man who grew up barefoot in Kumasi and built his empire brick by brick with calloused hands and sleepless nights. He didn't show off. That was never his way. But now he was tired of being invisible too. The next morning, Jasmine woke up to find a navy blue suit laid out for her on the bed. Not flashy, simple, elegant. With a white silk blouse and a single gold necklace, the one Kwame had given her on their 3rd anniversary, engraved with Nya Asem Hwe, meaning have patience and observe. She looked at him, confused. "What's this?" Kwame kissed her forehead. "Today you walk in with your head high, the rest and leave that to me." Jasmine walked into the office at 8:03 a.m. The marble floors still gleamed, the logo still towered. But today something felt different. She moved through the office slowly, her posture a little straighter, her eyes a little bolder. Tiana raised an eyebrow as she saw her. "Oh, wow," she whispered to Lauren. Cardigan Girl found a mirror. Mark smirked. "Bet she borrowed her outfit for a job interview. Good luck with that resume." They all laughed again, but this time Jasmine didn't flinch. She sat at her desk, powered up her computer and smiled. At exactly 9:15 a.m., the glass doors to the executive floor opened with a soft ding, and in walked Kwame Carter, 6'4", tailored navy suit, diamond-shaped lapel pin of the Carter Group, flanked by 2 quiet assistants in black. He didn't speak. Not at first, but the room went silent like someone had cut the cord on the office's energy. Lauren dropped her coffee. Mark stood up so fast his chair rolled away. Tiana's mouth opened, but no words came out. Kwame walked straight to Jasmine's desk, leaned down and kissed her cheek gently. "My queen," he said, and then he turned. "Who is the manager here?" The storm had arrived. Kwame's voice was calm, but the room froze like someone had dropped ice into boiling water. Tiana tried to laugh it off first. Excuse me, can I help you?" she said, putting on her fake receptionist smile. "Are you lost? This is a corporate floor. Clients wait downstairs." Kwame didn't even look at her. Instead, he raised a hand and motioned toward a confused HR intern standing nearby. Amy, right? He asked, eyes soft but direct. Amy nodded slowly, clearly. Shocked he knew her name. Be a star and call your director. Tell them Kwame Carter would like a moment, he said, and make sure your CEO knows I'm here. We've spoken before. Amy scrambled, nearly tripping over her heels as she fumbled with the phone. The entire office was still silent. Lauren, suddenly unsure, quietly closed her selfie app. Mark had backed away toward his desk like he was trying to disappear into the wall. Tiana's face had gone pale. Wait, Carter? She whispered. As in, Carter Freight Group? Jasmine stayed seated, her expression unreadable. She simply adjusted her posture and kept her eyes on the screen, quietly typing an email as if none of this was happening. The elevator opened again 5 minutes later, and a short, red-faced man in a navy suit came rushing in. Mr. Darrell Haynes, CEO of Heart Marketing Solutions. His tie was crooked and sweat glistened at his temples. Mr. Carter, my God, I wasn't aware you were visiting today, he said, hand outstretched. Kwame didn't shake it. I wasn't planning to, he said, until my wife was repeatedly disrespected and humiliated in your company while working overtime to deliver numbers your people take credit for. Haynes blinked. Wife, Kwame pointed calmly. Jasmine Carter, your senior analyst. The ease color drained from Haynes's face as he turned toward Jasmine. You're married to... Jasmine finally looked up and gave the CEO a single polite nod. Yes, for 6 years. I never mentioned it. Didn't seem important. Kwame stepped forward. But now it is, because apparently dignity isn't included in your company culture. Tiana started to stammer. Mr. Carter, with all due respect, it was just harmless office banter. No one meant anything by it. Harmless, Kwame repeated, his voice dropping like thunder wrapped in silk. You destroyed her work, mocked her appearance, and posted about it online like it was sport. You laughed while she cleaned your mess. You turned a skilled analyst into your daily entertainment. He turned toward Haynes again. Let me be clear, I don't care about your profits, your glass walls, or your dress codes. What I care about is respect, something this office clearly lacks. Haynes looked like he was about to faint. Mr. Carter, please, I can assure you... Kwame interrupted, not with words, but by turning to his assistant and saying, Initiate buyout. Everyone gasped. You're buying the company? Haynes squeaked. Kwame's voice was level. A controlling stake, effective immediately. You've been undervalued for the last 3 quarters. I made my decision last night after my wife came home in tears. My legal team will finalize within 48 hours. Tiana let out a choked sound. Wait, you're firing us? Kwame glanced at Jasmine. That's not my decision to make, that's hers. Jasmine stood slowly, her voice soft but firm. You've had plenty of chances to be kind. You chose cruelty every time. This isn't revenge. It's accountability. She looked at each of them, Tiana, Mark, Lauren, and then finally the CEO. I won't work under people who mock others for sport. I won't lead a team that celebrates cruelty. So, yes, clean house. Anyone involved in the harassment, gone. She turned to Kwame. But I want one thing more than firings. He raised an eyebrow. Say it. An internship program for women from underserved communities, girls who wear thrift store shoes and eat tuna sandwiches in Ziploc bags. I want them to know they belong too. Kwame smiled, proud. Done. Jasmine picked up her notepad, the one that had been ruined, and walked out. As she passed Tiana's desk, she paused. You were right about one thing, Jasmine said. I do dance with Excel sheets, and darling, I never miss a step. Then she left, and behind her everything changed. The story spread like wildfire. By noon the next day, an internal memo was circulating through Heart Marketing Solutions titled Leadership Transition and Corporate Culture Overhaul, effective immediately. The memo didn't name names, but everyone knew what it meant. The rumors had flown fast. Billionaire husband storms office. Quiet girl owns us now. CEO blindsided by takeover. Slack messages popped off like fireworks. Employees were double-checking their online profiles, deleting snarky comments, and panicking in private group chats. Tiana didn't come in that morning. Neither did Mark. Lauren posted one last Instagram story from her car, a tearful selfie. with the caption, "Corporate life is so toxic, protect your peace." It vanished 20 minutes later. Jasmine, however, arrived at the same time as always, 8:03 a.m. Same flats, same calm steps, same grey cardigan. But now eyes followed her, not with mockery but with respect, and maybe a little fear. She walked into her new office, yes, her office, 1 floor up, glass-walled, freshly renovated, with a skyline view. A nameplate had been placed on the door overnight, Jasmine Carter, Director of Strategic Analytics and Culture Transformation. She didn't smile at the fancy title. That wasn't the victory. The real victory was the freedom to be herself. Quiet, soft-spoken, cardigan-wearing Jasmine, and be taken seriously. Kwame visited briefly later that morning, not to gloat, but to follow up on her request. "So," he said, folding into the guest chair in her new office. "The internship program, what are we calling it?" Jasmine looked up from her notes. "The Silent Strength Initiative," he nodded. "I like it. I want girls from local community colleges," she continued. "No Ivy League filter. We'll train them in analytics, presentation, real strategy work. Let them shine based on talent, not outfits." Kwame smiled again, the kind of smile that always made her feel like she was seen. "Your vision is beautiful and needed." Just then, her new assistant, a soft-spoken Nigerian woman named Ebele, knocked lightly. "Sorry to interrupt," she said, "but there's someone here. Says she used to work here and would like 5 minutes of your time. Her name is—" "Amy?" Jasmine tilted her head. "The intern?" Ebele nodded. "Yes, she seems nervous." Kwame stood. "I'll leave you to it." He leaned in to kiss Jasmine's cheek again and whispered, "Call me if you need me to fire anyone else." She chuckled softly as he left. A moment later, Amy stepped in, clutching a little folder and twisting her fingers. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry," she began. "I was new and I saw everything and I didn't speak up. I should have." Jasmine studied her for a long moment. Amy was barely 23, frightened, ashamed, but honest. "You were scared," Jasmine said gently. "That makes you human. What you do now decides whether you grow or repeat." Amy bit her lip. "I want to grow. I want to help with the internship program. I know what it's like to feel invisible." Jasmine stood, walked to the window, then turned back. "You're in," she said. Amy blinked. "Seriously? You'll work directly under me. But if I catch you mocking someone for eating from a Ziploc, we're done." Amy nodded quickly. "Never. I swear. Thank you so much." After she left, Jasmine turned back to the city skyline. So many buildings. So many offices filled with women like her, quietly surviving humiliation just to earn a paycheck. She had the power now to make even a small dent in that culture. Her phone buzzed. A message from Kwame. "Dinner tonight? You've earned a—" "Full pot of pepper soup," she replied. "Only if there's fried plantain, too." That evening, Jasmine didn't work late. She didn't clean up anyone's mess. She packed her things, walked past the same logo in the lobby, and didn't lower her eyes once. The janitor, a kind older man named Papa Joe, gave her a little salute. "Ah, Madam Director, you look strong today." Jasmine smiled. "Thank you. Papa Joe, I feel strong." When she stepped outside, the cold Chicago air greeted her, but she didn't shiver. Her cardigan was warm, and now it no longer felt like armor. It felt like pride, because sometimes the quietest women carry the loudest storms, and when they rise, the whole world listens. 3 weeks later, the Silent Strength Initiative officially launched. The press didn't cover it. No flashy press release, no champagne toasts or ribbon cuttings. Just a humble gathering in a plain conference room filled with 20 young women, each one carefully selected by Jasmine herself. Some wore long braids, some wore headscarves, some had shoes with scuffed soles, some held resumes printed at public libraries. All of them had one thing in common. They had been overlooked. Jasmine stood at the front wearing her cardigan like a crown now. It wasn't just soft fabric anymore. It was a symbol of who she was, of what she'd overcome. And what they could too. "I was just like you," she began, her voice quiet but confident. They called me trash. They laughed at my shoes. But what they didn't see was my mind. The girls listened, wide-eyed. Some clutched notebooks. Others simply stared, as if memorizing every word. "They'll tell you you don't belong," Jasmine continued, "that you're not polished enough, that your name is too hard to pronounce, that your lunch smells funny. They'll smile while cutting you down. But listen, your strength is in your silence. Your dignity, your work ethic, your brilliance." A girl in the front row wiped a tear from her cheek. Another clapped, even though the speech wasn't over. Jasmine smiled softly. "You're not here to be anyone else. You're here to become more of who you already are." Afterward, as she handed out folders with training schedules and assignments, one of the interns, a short, sharp-eyed girl named Zanele, stayed behind. "Miss Jasmine," she said, her accent gently south. "African, do you ever get tired of being the bigger person?" That question stopped Jasmine in her tracks. She sat on the edge of the table and nodded slowly. "Yes, sir, every day." Zanele waited. "But then I remember," Jasmine said, "that if I don't, someone like you won't get the chance to be in." "This room," Zanele smiled wide. "Then one day I'll take over for you and you can rest." "Deal," Jasmine said. Later that day, she sat in her office, the city glowing gold outside her windows, when an unexpected email came in. The subject line read, "From one former bully to another chance." It was from Lauren. Jasmine's heart beat a little faster. Her instinct told her to delete it without opening, but something made her click. "Jasmine, I was wrong, I was cruel, and I laughed because I thought that made me powerful. It didn't. It made me small. You didn't just survive us. You rose above us. And if there's ever anything I can do to make up for what I was part of, I'll do it. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I wanted to say thank you for showing me what real power looks like." Lauren Jasmine stared at the screen, motionless. Forgiveness was heavy. She hadn't thought about it. She'd been too busy building, healing. But reading that email, it stirred something inside her. Not pity, not sympathy, something simpler, closure. She didn't reply. Not right away. She closed the laptop gently, stood and walked toward the window again. The skyline stretched far and endless like opportunity. Below her, someone walked out of the building in the exact same thrifted cardigan she used to wear. It looked like a young intern, shoulders slightly hunched. Head down, Jasmine watched for a long moment. Then she turned around and wrote a note for her assistant. Give her a mentor and a seat at the front table. That night, at home, Kwame was frying plantains, humming an old highlife song his father used to sing. Jasmine walked in, threw her tote on the couch and hugged him from behind. "Tough day?" he asked. "No," she said. "Just a full one." He turned and held her close. "You know what I think?" You were never just the quiet girl in the corner. You were always the storm. You just didn't know it yet." Jasmine smiled and kissed his cheek. "Well," she said, "they know now." Change moves slowly in some places, like fog crawling over a valley. But once it settles, everything looks different. Heart Marketing Solutions was not what it used to be. Gone were the sarcastic Slacks messages about people's outfits. Gone were the mocking break-room whispers, the office banter that was just cruelty dressed in cheap perfume. It started subtly, a shift in posture, the way eyes lingered with caution now before making jokes, the way managers actually listened. In meetings, the company had adopted a new slogan, quietly added to the bottom of every email signature: talent over Polish, integrity over ego. It was Jasmine's idea. Kwame didn't interfere. After finalizing the buyout, he remained behind the curtain, a quiet giant in the background, offering support but never control. He knew this story wasn't his to lead. It was hers. On the first Monday of the new quarter, Jasmine was walking the hallways when she noticed a woman at reception, waiting uncomfortably in a chair, hands tightly clasped, even from a distance. Jasmine recognized her. Tiana. Her hair was different, natural now, curls soft around her face instead of the rigid waves she used to iron into submission. No acrylic nails, no luxury purse, just a plain blouse and old jeans. Jasmine paused. Ebele came around the corner, whispering quickly, "She's been here 3 times this week. Says she's not here to ask for a job. Just wants to talk. I told her it was up to you." Jasmine stared at Tiana from across the hallway. The same woman who used to laugh at her shoes, who spilled drinks on her work like it was entertainment. Now she sat slumped and silent. Not defeated, but stripped of her arrogance. "Send her in," Jasmine said. Tiana stood slowly as Jasmine opened the office door herself. They sat opposite each other in silence for a moment. "I didn't come to ask for a job," Tiana began, quickly. "I swear," Jasmine said nothing. She simply waited. "I came because I needed to face what I did," Tiana continued. "After everything went down, I tried to blame you. Said you overreacted, that you ruined my career, but it wasn't you. I did that. I just didn't want to see it." Jasmine's eyes didn't soften. Not yet. She had heard apologies before. The kind people give because they want something. Tiana noticed the silence and pushed forward. "I'm working at a bakery now, nothing fancy, just paying bills. I haven't worn heels in months." She smiled faintly. "And guess what? My back feels better." Jasmine allowed herself the smallest smile. "And your ego?" Tiana laughed, almost bitterly. "That one's still bruised." More silence. Then Jasmine said, "So why now? Why come here?" Tiana swallowed. "Because I realized I spent years laughing at people to hide how small I felt inside. And the person I humiliated most was the one I should have been learning from." Jasmine leaned back in her chair, folding her hands. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing," Tiana said quickly. "Well, maybe just this. I want to volunteer for the Silent Strength Initiative. I want to help those girls, make sure they don't turn into someone like I was." That part surprised Jasmine. "You're not doing this to clean your name." "No," Tiana said firmly. "That name's already dirty. But maybe I can clean someone else's path." Jasmine watched her for a long moment. The air between them was thick with old history, some wounds still tender. But beneath it all there was sincerity. "And maybe, just maybe, change. You start next Monday," Jasmine said finally. "No pay, no title. You shadow Zanele. She'll be your supervisor." Tiana's eyes widened. "Seriously?" "Yes. But one strike, one slip into old habits, and I pull you out myself." Tiana stood up, nodded, and whispered, "Thank you." As she walked out, Ebele leaned into Jasmine's office, raising an eyebrow. "You sure about that?" she asked. "No," Jasmine replied. "But someone gave me a chance once. I was just lucky it came with love." That night, as she sat on the balcony with Kwame, watching the Chicago skyline blink like a million dreams in the dark, she felt something shift deep inside her. Not revenge. Not justice. Peace. And peace, Jasmine realized, didn't come when the war ended. It came when the world finally saw who you were and still chose to respect you. Zanel had never been in an elevator that quiet. She stood between 2 senior managers, both of whom ignored her presence completely, pretending their phones had life-or-death updates. But Zanele didn't need their attention. She was there for something bigger than politeness. The elevator doors opened on the executive floor, and Zanele stepped out into the polished silence. A month ago, she had arrived late on her first day, flustered and embarrassed, wearing a borrowed blazer. Now she walked with her shoulders squared, her braids tied neatly, her lanyard swinging gently as she moved. She knocked once on Jasmine's door. "Come in," Jasmine called, her voice calm. Zanele entered, holding a tablet. "The data on client. Churn rates is done. But there's something else. I think someone's been manipulating numbers in the Q3 report." Jasmine looked up immediately. "Who?" "I don't want to say until I'm sure," Zanele said, "but I found inconsistencies in client retention figures. Same clients listed under 2 managers. It's subtle, smart, but fake." Jasmine took the tablet, scanning quickly. Zanelli's instincts were spot on. The red flags were there, buried deep but real. "This is good work," Jasmine said. "Keep this between us, and don't dig further alone." Zanele hesitated. "You think it's serious? I think it could cost us everything we've built if we don't handle it right." As Zanele left, Jasmine sat still for a long moment, her mind already calculating damage control, audit protocols, PR risks. The company had come so far, but ghosts of the old culture hadn't all left. Some had stayed behind, hidden, quiet. And now one of them had started manipulating numbers to make themselves look better, and likely to keep a promotion or avoid performance consequences. Later that evening, Jasmine sat with Kwame at their kitchen table, a pot of pepper soup. Between them, she told him everything. He listened silently, then finally said, "You knew it wouldn't be easy." "I knew," she said, "but I didn't expect the sabotage to come from someone still here. I thought we cleared the toxic ones." Kwame shook his head. "Toxic doesn't always show up loud. Sometimes it wears a smile and files clean spreadsheets." She nodded, exhausted. "The interns trust me, Zanele trusts me. If this scandal breaks, it won't just hit the company. It'll hit the initiative. People will say, 'Look, you put kindness over competence.'" "Then prove them wrong," Kwame said. "You don't fight poison with poison. You fight it with truth and process." Jasmine initiated an internal audit first thing the next morning. Quiet, discreet. Only 3 people knew. Zanele, Jasmine, and Ebele. Within a week, they had their answer. Lyle Borin, head of sales strategy. A name Jasmine knew well. He'd been one of the quiet skeptics. Never rude, never cruel, but always subtly dismissive. The kind of man who called her kiddo in meetings and praised her poise instead of her ideas. He had padded client numbers, duplicating entries, across departments to boost performance reports. Not for the first time, it was a pattern. When she confronted him privately, Lyle didn't flinch. "I've been here 12 years, he said. "I trained half this company. I kept quiet when you rose up and tossed the old guard. Don't I deserve a little leverage?" Jasmine stared at him. "You deserve consequences," she said, "not for being old school, but for lying, for thinking performance can be faked, and for insulting every honest person who stays late to do real work." He scoffed. "This is personal." "It's principle," she replied, "and your desk will be cleared out by 5 p.m. Lyle left that evening, quietly, no drama, but word got around fast. Jasmine had fired a senior executive. No emotion, no ceremony, just clean justice. That Friday, at the Silent Strength Weekly Review, Zanele stood up to give her presentation. She was sharp, clear, confident, but at the end she paused. "I've learned a lot in a month," she said. "But the biggest lesson, leadership isn't about power, it's about protection. Miss Jasmine didn't just give us seats, she built a room where we don't have to fight to breathe." Applause followed. Some girls had tears in their eyes. Jasmine, seated in the back this time, didn't stand. She didn't need to. The change was already happening, not with headlines, not with noise, but with women like Zanele, who walked into rooms knowing they belonged there. The headline dropped on a Tuesday morning like a match into dry grass. "Diversity at a cost. Is Hart Marketing's new internship program a risk to corporate standards?" Midwest Business. Daily Jasmine was in the middle of reviewing quarterly projections when her inbox began flooding. Alerts, links, panicked messages from mentors, confused texts from interns. The article was brutal, calculated and laced with polite racism disguised as concern. It painted the Silent Strength Initiative as a social experiment driven by optics rather than merit. It claimed the program prioritized emotional, trauma narratives over actual skill, and even hinted that Jasmine's promotion was more symbolic than strategic. It didn't name her directly until the 4th paragraph. While Ms. Jasmine Carter, a quiet former analyst turned director, has championed her so-called compassion-driven hiring model, sources question whether such emotional storytelling belongs in boardroom decisions. One must ask, how long before empathy erodes efficiency? Jasmine sat still, not angry, not shocked, just deeply tired. She had expected backlash, but not so soon, not so bold, and certainly not so public. Kwame called 5 minutes later. "I saw it," he said. "I figured," she replied. "You probably saw it before I did." He was quiet. Then, "What do you want to do?" She looked at the screen. At the girls in her program who would be reading this, at Zanele, at Amy, at the janitor's niece, who had just submitted her first clean report with trembling hands and eyes full of pride. "I want to fight it," she said. "But—" "Not with noise," Kwame chuckled. "So, not with a Twitter thread?" "No," Jasmine said, "with proof." By noon, she called an emergency town hall at Hart's main conference center. Employees, interns, executives. The room was full. Cameras from internal comms were set up. It was supposed to be an end-of-quarter strategy brief. Instead, she opened with the article. "I know most of you have read it," she said, holding up a printout. "And if you haven't, don't bother. I'll summarize. Apparently, hiring people with humble backgrounds is a threat to corporate standards." There were a few awkward laughs, some stiff backs. She continued, "I've spent the last 3 months watching women who were mocked for their shoes teach senior staff how to clean up broken systems. I've watched Zanele catch fraud in a report our top-paid managers missed. I've watched Amy, who once stayed silent, now lead training. Seminars for 3 departments." She turned slowly to face the internal camera feed, knowing the video would circulate company-wide. "I don't need to defend their value with feelings. I'll do it with facts." She pulled up a chart. "Since launching Silent Strength, our client retention rate has increased by 17%. Our error rate in reports has dropped by 23%, and the feedback from our top 10 clients mentions one word more than any other: clarity. These girls are doing the work." Another slide. Cost-to-value analysis of the internship program shows it is 10 times more cost-efficient than hiring unmotivated middle managers who plateau in 2 years. Then her voice dropped a note. "I don't mind scrutiny, but let's be honest, if this program were filled with Ivy League sons of board members, no one would be writing opinion pieces. What you're afraid of isn't inefficiency, it's change. You're afraid that people who look like me that can also lead." The room was quiet, pin-drop quiet, but the shift was undeniable. The applause started slow, then spread, then shook the glass walls. Zanele had tears in her eyes. Amy whispered, "She did it." Even a few skeptical execs nodded, quietly impressed. Later, that week, Jasmine published an op-ed titled, "We're not lowering the bar, we're redefining who gets to reach it." It went viral. She was invited to speak on podcasts, business panels, even a televised roundtable debate where she politely eviscerated a smug professor who argued cultural fit was being sacrificed for diversity hires. "You're not afraid of unqualified workers," Jasmine told him live on air. "You're afraid your version of qualified has expired." That moment, clipped and reposted 1,000,000 times, was when the world stopped seeing her as the quiet analyst who married well. Now she was a leader in her own right, and the storm that had once built quietly in the corner cubicle had become a force no boardroom could ignore. The sunlight poured through the tall windows of the new Silent Strength Center, a satellite office Jasmine had opened on the south side of Chicago, far from the glass towers downtown. No marble floors, no pretentious art pieces, just clean desks, warm lighting, and a wide wall painted with a single phrase in bold gold letters: "You belong here." It had been 1 year since Jasmine fired Lyle, 8 months since the article, trying to tear her program apart. 6 months since she gave that speech. The storm she had once held inside was now a system that had lifted dozens of women out of invisibility and into visibility, out of silence and into strategy. Jasmine stood near the wall of framed photos. Each picture was of an intern who had completed the program, not graduation portraits, action shots, one typing with focus, another leading a team huddle. Zanele in front of a whiteboard, mid-presentation, eyes blazing. Now, Zanele was senior, analyst at heart. Amy ran the internship logistics full-time, and Jasmine, she was no longer just a director. The board had recently named her Chief Culture and Innovation Officer, the first black woman to hold a C-suite position at Hart Marketing Solutions. She didn't throw a party. She didn't announce it with balloons. Instead, she used her new position to open 2 more Silent Strength branches, one in Detroit, one in Lagos. On this particular afternoon, she was meeting with a small group of fresh interns, all gathered for orientation. Some looked nervous, some looked skeptical. One wore an oversized hoodie and wouldn't make eye contact. Jasmine smiled, softly. She'd seen this before. She had been this before. "I know what they'll tell you," she began, "that you're too quiet, too soft, too unpolished, that your background doesn't scream success." She paused, scanning their faces. "I was once the girl in the corner. I was once the joke, the target, the one who ate lunch alone." A few girls looked up, surprised. "But I built a life from that corner, not with noise, with excellence, with persistence, and with kindness that refused to turn bitter." Then she looked directly at the girl in the hoodie. "You don't need to speak loudly. Just speak truthfully. And don't be afraid of growing slowly. Be afraid of standing still." The girl's eyes softened. Just a little. After the session, Zainale walked in, holding a sleek tablet and a big grin. "The Nigeria office already has 50 applications, and 2 of our girls from the last batch landed offers from clients, real ones." Jasmine exhaled. "That's the legacy, Zainale, not the office, not the title, the women." Zainale smiled. "You ever think about that day, when he walked into the office?" Jasmine laughed gently. "Every day." Kwame walked in right on cue, holding their toddler son, chubby-cheeked, bright-eyed, and clutching a little toy truck. Jasmine bent down to kiss the boy's forehead. "You causing trouble again?" she asked. The boy giggled and said, "Mama, boss." "Damn right she is," Kwame said, setting him down. They walked out together, Jasmine, Kwame, and their son, past the desks, past the new interns, past the wall of photos. As they neared the exit, one young intern stopped her. "Ma'am?" Jasmine turned. The girl looked about 19, nervous, her voice barely above a whisper. "I just wanted to say, I used to think people like you didn't exist." Jasmine smiled softly. "Neither did I." And then she walked on, hand in hand with her husband, their son skipping ahead. The echo of a journey once fueled by humiliation, now anchored in legacy. Because sometimes the quietest woman in the room isn't just surviving, she's planting something. And when it blooms, the whole world will feel its roots.